Alex lived alone on the edge of a barren planet. The land stretched for miles, rough and wild, with jagged rocks and strange plants. The sky was usually dark and storms came often, fierce and sudden. Alex had built a small hut from local wood and stone, enough to protect him from the weather. It was simple, with a fire pit, a bed, and shelves filled with the few supplies he had. One evening, the wind began to howl louder than usual. The clouds above were thick and black, swirling as if they had a life of their own. Alex peered outside and saw the first drops of rain. He shook his head. "This one is going to be bad," he muttered to himself. Quickly, he stacked extra firewood near the pit and secured the door with a heavy latch. The storm hit faster than he expected. Rain pelted the roof and walls, and the wind whipped around the hut, shaking it. Lightning flashed, illuminating the small interior in harsh white light, and thunder followed, rumbling through the mountains. Alex sat by the fire, trying to stay calm, listening to the storm rage outside. Then, amidst the roar of the wind, he heard something strange. Footsteps. They were too light and quick to belong to any animal he knew on this planet. At first, he thought it was the wind, but the sound grew closer, moving across the wet ground toward his hut. Alex's heart beat faster. He reached for the wooden club he kept near the door, unsure of who or what was coming. The door shook suddenly, as if something was pushing against it. "Who's there?" Alex called, his voice firm despite his fear. The knocking stopped, but the wind carried a low, almost melodic hum. Then, through the storm, the door slid open a crack and Alex saw them. 3 figures, wet and shivering, standing in the rain. They were not human. Their skin was slightly greenish, with markings along their arms that glowed faintly in the dim light. Their eyes were sharp and intelligent, and their bodies were strong and agile, clearly built for hunting and survival. Alex took a cautious step back but realized they were not aggressive. They were only looking for shelter. "We mean no harm," one of them said in a voice that sounded musical even through the wind. Alex noticed her first, tall with long dark hair plastered to her face by the rain. Her eyes locked on his in a way that made his chest tighten. She stepped forward and whispered to one of the others, almost too softly to hear. "I saw him first, mine." Alex blinked. "Excuse me?" he said. But the words were lost in the howl of the storm. He didn't understand exactly what she meant, but the way she looked at him sent a strange feeling through him. The Huntresses, as Alex would soon think of them, entered the hut quickly, shaking off water. One of them, shorter and with silver hair, glanced around, inspecting his modest home. "It's small," she said, voice curious, "but it will keep us dry." The third stayed near the door, scanning the storm outside, alert to any danger. Alex swallowed hard. He had expected animals, maybe some local scavengers, but not intelligent hunters from another species. "Okay, stay," he said finally, gesturing toward the fire. "You can warm up, but please don't touch anything else." He tried to sound confident, though his heart was still racing. The Huntresses moved with grace, almost silently. They knelt near the fire, rubbing their hands together and letting the warmth dry their wet bodies. Alex watched carefully, noting how each of them had a different personality. The one who whispered earlier, Lyra, he would learn, seemed alert, cautious, and slightly proud. The silver-haired one was curious, always looking around, testing the space. The last stayed quiet, but watched both Alex and the storm with sharp eyes, ready to react. As the rain hammered the roof, Alex tried to start a conversation. "Where are you from?" "Are you hunters?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral. Lyra looked at him first, tilting her head slightly. "We hunt for survival," she said carefully. "Our pack moves together. We follow the rules of our people." "The rules?" Alex echoed. "Yes," Lyra replied. Her eyes flicked to him, then back to the fire. "The strongest, the fastest, the cleverest, they choose. Sometimes even among the pack, claims are made." She hesitated, and he remembered her earlier whisper. I claimed him first," she added softly. Alex didn't know what to say. He was just a human, living alone, and now he was part of a world he didn't understand. The idea that these powerful hunters might have rules about claiming someone felt strange and dangerous, yet oddly thrilling. He decided it was better to observe for now than to react. The storm continued through the night. Alex and the Huntresses shared stories, though the conversation was cautious. Alex told them about his life on the planet, about building his hut, surviving alone, and the strange wildlife he had encountered. The Huntresses listened intently, asking sharp, quick questions, impressed by his knowledge and adaptability. In return, they spoke of their pack, their hunting strategies, and the harsh realities of their world. Alex realized they were not only strong but smart and disciplined. He couldn't help but admire their abilities, even as he felt the subtle tension between them. Lyra's eyes kept returning to him, watching his every move, her whispers and glances sparking curiosity and unease in him at the same time. By midnight, the storm reached its peak. Thunder cracked so loud that it shook the walls, and lightning lit the room in white bursts. Alex sat near the fire, keeping an eye on the three hunters. He noticed small gestures. The way Lyra's hand rested near her weapon, the silver-haired huntress testing the fire for warmth, and the quiet one who never stopped observing. It was clear they were more than mere visitors. They were creatures who thrived in danger, and yet here they were seeking his protection. The night was long. The storm's rhythm and the occasional crack of thunder made the hut feel smaller and more intimate. Alex felt a strange connection forming, not just out of necessity, but because these beings, fierce, intelligent, and proud, had stepped into his life. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: this night would change everything. As the first light of dawn broke through the clouds, the storm began to die down. The huntresses looked outside cautiously. They were wet, tired, but ready to move. Lyra lingered by the fire, her gaze on Alex. The words she had whispered earlier echoed in his mind. "I saw him first. Mine." Alex realized that the huntresses were not only survivors, they were warriors with a code, and somehow he had become part of that code. The night had been about survival, but it had also been about connection, curiosity, and the beginnings of a strange, unspoken bond. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he understood one thing clearly. His life, once quiet and solitary, was about to become far more dangerous, far more exciting, and far more alive than he had ever imagined. The storm had passed, leaving the landscape wet and muddy. The distant mountains were hidden in low clouds, and the air smelled of fresh rain, mixed with the sharp scent of alien plants. Alex stepped outside for a moment, stretching his legs and letting the cool air wash over him. The huntresses remained in his hut, drying themselves and carefully inspecting their surroundings. Lyra moved closer to the fire, her damp hair falling across her face. She watched Alex for a moment before speaking. "You survive well here," she said quietly. "Few could manage alone in such a place." Alex shrugged, trying to appear modest. "It's not easy, but you learn. You have to. This planet, it doesn't forgive mistakes." The silver-haired huntress, Kira, peeked out of the doorway and smiled faintly. "You are clever," she said. "I can see it in your eyes. Cleverness is useful, sometimes more than strength." Alex felt a strange pride in that. He was just human, but surviving alone required more than muscle. It required thinking, planning, and courage. That was what made him different, even among creatures like these huntresses who were strong, fast, and deadly in the wild. Lyra, however, seemed unimpressed by flattery. She focused on Alex differently, observing his every movement with careful attention. There was something in her gaze that made him uneasy and curious at the same time. He remembered her whisper from the night before. "I saw him first, mine." As the day progressed, Alex realized that he needed to share his resources. The hut was small and food was limited. He brought out dried meat and roots he had stored, offering them cautiously. The huntresses accepted without complaint but continued to test the space, moving gracefully and silently, always alert. "This food," Kira said, examining the dried meat. "It is human prepared." Alex nodded. "I learn from mistakes. You have to know what is safe to eat and what is not." Lyra's eyes met his. "Your mind is different," she said softly. "We see many hunters, but few think like you. You survive not by chasing or fighting, but by understanding." That comment made Alex smile. He had always felt humans had a subtle advantage. Even though he was smaller and weaker than these alien hunters, his ability to think, plan, and improvise could save his life. And right now it was saving his life in ways he hadn't even realized. The huntresses began to teach Alex more about their ways. They spoke of the pack code, the rules that governed their society. Strength, speed, and cleverness determined rank. Allies and even mates could be claimed under certain circumstances. The phrase Lyra whispered earlier was part of this ritual. Claims were respected if the individual proved worthy. Alex listened carefully, absorbing every detail. It was fascinating but also dangerous. Being claimed didn't mean anything automatically. It required him to prove himself in ways that were unfamiliar and risky. For the next few hours, Alex showed them his skills. He demonstrated traps he had set for small alien creatures, showing the Huntresses how clever humans could be. They observed quietly, impressed by his ingenuity. Lyra's eyes were especially attentive, noting every step, every decision he made. She nodded subtly at him, a silent acknowledgement of his cleverness. At one point, Alex ventured outside with Kira and Lyra to check the surrounding area. The storm had left deep puddles and slippery mud, and the alien vegetation was slick with rain. Kira moved easily over the rough ground, and Lyra's movements were precise, almost predatory. Alex struggled at first but learned to navigate the terrain by following their cues. "You are learning fast," Lyra said, her voice soft but confident. "That is a rare quality. Humans are usually slower to adapt." Alex laughed lightly. "Or maybe humans just don't have much choice. We survive because we have to." Lyra's expression softened slightly and she looked away, focusing on the horizon. Alex wondered if her whisper from the night before had deeper meaning than he realized. "Mine." The word lingered in his mind, mysterious and slightly alarming. The day turned into evening, and Alex prepared another small fire outside. The Huntresses gathered around, sharing stories of their hunts and adventures. Alex learned that they were not just fierce warriors. They were disciplined, intelligent, and bound by loyalty to each other. They laughed quietly at memories of past mistakes, showing humor in ways Alex didn't expect. Lyra, however, remained slightly apart from the others, her attention often drifting back to Alex. She asked questions about his life, his routines, and his survival strategies. Each answer revealed more about human resourcefulness, and she seemed to respect it in a way that the others didn't express as openly. As night fell, the air grew cold again. Alex offered blankets he had made from local fibers. The Huntresses accepted, wrapping themselves tightly. He noticed the subtle hierarchy in how they arranged themselves. Lyra closest to him, the silver-haired Kira a step back, and the quiet one watching everything with alert eyes. They shared a meal in silence for a while, the crackling fire filling the gaps between words. Alex realized that despite their strength, they trusted him enough to share this intimate moment. Trust was rare among their kind, and it was something he had to earn carefully. Lyra finally spoke, breaking the silence. "Tomorrow we must decide our path. We cannot stay long." Her eyes met his directly, unflinching. "But I want you to understand something. Your mind matters. Strength matters, yes, but cleverness, courage, those are qualities that may change everything." Alex nodded, unsure of how to respond. He had felt the same thing since the storm began, a sense that these Huntresses were unlike anyone he had ever met, and that he had a rare opportunity to learn from them, and perhaps to teach them something as well. The night stretched on and sleep came slowly. Alex lay near the fire, listening to the soft breathing of the Huntresses and the occasional crack of lightning far in the distance. He thought about the day, their rules, their strength, their code. He also thought about Lyra, the one who whispered mine. He couldn't understand fully what that meant, but he knew one thing. He was not just a survivor here. He was becoming part of a world that challenged everything he knew about strength, loyalty, and connection. The hut, once a simple shelter, had become a small stage where intelligence, courage, and survival intertwined. Alex realized that tomorrow would bring tests of strength, tests of mind, and tests of heart. And he was ready to face them, because even among the most skilled hunters, a human's mind could make the difference between life and death. As sleep finally claimed him, Alex felt a quiet determination. These Huntresses had entered his life unexpectedly, and he had no idea how long they would stay. But one thing was certain. His life, once solitary and predictable, was now unpredictable, thrilling, and full of possibilities. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and distant flowers. The storm had passed completely, leaving the landscape alive with dripping leaves and slick rocks. Alex stepped outside, stretching his limbs as sunlight broke through the clouds. For a brief moment, the world felt peaceful, but that calm was deceptive. The Huntresses moved carefully, scanning the horizon. They were alert, their bodies ready for action. Alex noticed Lyra lingering closer to him, her eyes sharp as if she could sense danger before it arrived. Kira and the Quiet One moved together, patrolling the perimeter while maintaining constant communication with subtle gestures. Alex felt the weight of the day ahead. The Huntresses were skilled, yes, but he had learned quickly. Strength alone would not win the day. Intelligence, courage, and quick thinking could make the difference between survival and failure. Suddenly, a noise broke the quiet. A rustle in the nearby bushes followed by low growls that sent a shiver down Alex's spine. Native predators drawn out by the storm were approaching. They were massive, four-legged creatures with armored hides and sharp claws, faster than any ordinary animal Alex had ever faced. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, tracking movement with precision. Lyra's hand moved to her weapon instinctively. "They're dangerous," she warned, her voice calm but firm. "We must act fast." Kira nodded, signaling the others with a subtle wave of her hand. Alex took a deep breath, remembering everything he had learned from observing them. He couldn't just hide. He had to help. The first predator leaped toward the hut, claws scraping the wet ground. Alex grabbed a nearby stick, improvising a spear, and positioned himself near the doorway. Lyra moved beside him, agile and confident, while Kira flanked the other side. The quiet huntress circled to the back, preparing to trap any creature that tried to surround them. Alex's heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He remembered the traps he had used before and realized he could use the environment to their advantage. "Lead them toward the mud near the trees," he whispered. "They can't move quickly there." Lyra nodded, trusting his advice, and together they adjusted their positions. The predators charged. Alex thrust his improvised spear at the first one, hitting its armored shoulder. It growled in surprise and pain, giving Lyra a chance to strike with precise force, slashing at a weak point under its arm. Kira and the quiet huntress moved with swift coordination, pushing the other predators toward the mud pit. Alex felt a surge of adrenaline. Humans were not as strong as these huntresses or as powerful as the predators, but clever thinking could shift the balance. He guided the remaining predators using quick movements and strategic positioning to trap two of them in the mud. They struggled, unable to escape, while Lyra and Kira finished the fight with careful precision. When the last predator fell, silence returned. The Huntresses and Alex stood panting, the adrenaline fading slowly. Lyra's eyes met his, and for the first time she smiled faintly. You are clever," she said. "Your mind saved us as much as our strength." Alex felt a quiet pride. He had survived not just because of instinct or luck, but because he had thought, observed, and acted decisively. The Huntresses acknowledged it with subtle nods, their respect clear. After the predators were dealt with, Lyra approached Alex privately. Her eyes glinted with something he couldn't quite define: pride, curiosity, and something deeper. "I claimed you," she said softly, repeating the words from that first stormy night. "I saw you first, but now you have proven yourself worthy." Alex didn't know how to respond. The words felt heavy with meaning, part of a code he barely understood. Yet he felt a strange sense of connection, a recognition that his courage and cleverness mattered here, not just his physical presence. The other huntresses watched from a distance. They did not protest, but their expressions showed interest and mild jealousy. The pack code was clear. Claims were respected, but strength, skill, and respect determined their validity. Alex had passed the first real test, proving that a human could stand alongside them, not merely survive, but contribute in meaningful ways. Lyra's hand brushed his arm lightly, almost imperceptibly, but enough to send a thrill through him. "You are different," she murmured. "Most humans would have run or hidden. You face the danger with your mind, not just your body." Alex smiled faintly. "I had good teachers," he replied, nodding toward the other huntresses. They were silent for a moment, each considering the events of the morning. The air was thick with unspoken understanding. Bonds had formed, respect had been earned, and something subtle but powerful had shifted between them. As the day went on, the group worked together to repair the damage from the storm. Trees had fallen, and parts of the hut's outer wall had been battered by wind and rain. Alex demonstrated how he had reinforced the structure in previous storms, while the huntresses used their strength and agility to help lift and secure materials. During the work, Alex noticed the dynamics between the huntresses. Kira was practical and focused on efficiency, quietly impressed by Alex's instructions. The quiet one remained alert, scanning the surroundings constantly, while Lyra maintained a balance, watching him closely, guiding when necessary, and showing subtle signs of attachment. Alex realized that survival was not just about strength or skill. It was about understanding the people around you, respecting their abilities and earning trust. He had learned these lessons before in isolation, but now with these remarkable hunters the stakes were higher, and the rewards more meaningful. By late afternoon, the hut was repaired, and the immediate threat of predators had passed. The huntresses gathered near the fire, drying themselves and exchanging quiet conversation. Alex joined them, feeling a sense of belonging he had not experienced before. They shared small smiles and brief nods, signaling mutual respect. Lyra finally sat beside him. "Tomorrow we must return to our territory," she said softly. "But know this, you have earned a place in our thoughts and perhaps more than that." Her eyes searched his, as if weighing his response. Alex understood the meaning without words. This claim, this recognition, was not about ownership. It was about partnership, about respect, and about acknowledging human courage and cleverness. As night fell, the group remained near the fire, sharing quiet stories and learning about each other. Alex told them of the planet's dangers, the creatures he had encountered and the ways he had adapted to survive. In return, the huntresses shared tales of their hunts, their pack rituals, and the lessons they had learned from each other over years of training and experience. Lyra's gaze lingered on Alex often, and he found himself responding in kind. There was a subtle connection forming built on trust, shared danger, and mutual respect. He realized that humans could not only survive in this alien world, they could thrive, earning recognition from even the most skilled and powerful beings. As the fire dwindled and the night grew colder, Alex reflected on the events of the day. The storm had tested them, the predators had tested their courage, and the morning's battle had tested his mind. He had survived, and in doing so had proven that human intelligence and determination could stand alongside strength, speed, and skill. The huntresses, too, had learned something from him, that humans were capable of more than they appeared. They had underestimated his courage and cleverness, and now they respected him. The subtle bonds of trust and attraction were forming, particularly with Lyra, whose initial claim had grown into something more profound, acknowledgement of worth and potential. As sleep claimed him once again, Alex felt a sense of purpose and anticipation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, and perhaps new opportunities. But for now, he rested with the knowledge that humans, even alone on a harsh planet, could earn respect, admiration, and connection among the fiercest of alien hunters. And somewhere deep in his chest, Alex felt a quiet thrill knowing that Lyra's words, "I saw him first, mine," were no longer just a whisper in the storm. They were a promise, a beginning, and a challenge he was ready to face. The morning sun rose slowly, spilling warm light across the wet ground and glistening leaves. Alex stepped outside, breathing deeply, feeling the freshness of the air after 2 days of storm and tension. The huntresses were already awake, stretching and moving gracefully through the mud and puddles. Today would be the day they returned to their territory. But something in the air made Alex sense that this departure would not be simple. Lyra approached him first, her movements silent and deliberate. She looked at him with a calm intensity, as if reading his thoughts. "You have proven yourself," she said quietly, "not just in the fight, but in understanding us and thinking clearly when it mattered most. That is rare, human." Alex nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I learned from watching you," he admitted. "You all are extraordinary. I've never seen anyone like you before." Lyra's faint smile widened slightly. "We saw potential in you before we arrived, but now, we know it." Her gaze lingered, and for a moment, the world around them, the forest, the puddles, the distant mountains faded into quiet background. The silver-haired huntress, Kira, walked over, brushing mud from her arms. "He survived the predators," she said simply. "And he helped. He earned his place, even among us." She nodded toward Alex, a gesture of respect. The quiet huntress simply watched, her eyes still alert to the surrounding forest, but even she did not dispute the acknowledgement. Alex felt a warmth in his chest. Humans were often underestimated, but here, in this alien world, his courage, cleverness, and calm under pressure had earned recognition. He had proven that humanity could thrive even in the harshest conditions. The Huntresses began to prepare for departure. They moved with grace, retrieving their weapons, gathering supplies, and scanning the horizon for potential threats. Alex helped where he could, realizing that this was not just a farewell. It was a test of his continued worth. Lyra stayed by his side as they finished preparations. "Our pack code is clear," she said. "I claimed you first, and now it is respected. But a claim alone does not bind you. You must choose whether to come with us or remain here, alone." Alex considered her words carefully. For years he had lived in solitude, learning to survive, relying on his own strength and intelligence. Yet the storm, the Huntresses, and the battles had shown him that life could be richer, more challenging, and more rewarding when shared with others. Lyra's claim was not about ownership. It was about recognition, respect, and potential partnership. Alex paused, searching for the right words. "I want to learn more. I want to understand your world, your ways, and you." His voice was quiet, but firm. "I want to go with you." Lyra's eyes shone with approval. She nodded, a faint smile playing across her lips. "Then it is settled," she said softly. "You will travel with us, not as a possession, but as a companion, a partner in survival and understanding." The other Huntresses observed silently. Kira's expression softened into one of approval, while the quiet Huntress finally allowed a small nod, acknowledging his courage and worth. Alex realized that trust, once earned, could bridge even the greatest differences between species. As they prepared to leave, the pack moved in formation, Lyra at Alex's side. He felt a sense of exhilaration and anticipation. The forest around them seemed alive, and the possibilities ahead were endless. Humans had survived on this harsh planet, but now, with these extraordinary allies, he understood that humans could thrive, not merely endure. Along the journey back to the Huntresses' territory, Alex learned more about their world. Lyra explained the rules of the pack, the rituals of hunting, and the ways of leadership and cooperation. He absorbed it all, understanding that intelligence, courage, and empathy were as valuable as strength and speed in this society. Alex also began to see subtle lessons about human nature through their eyes. Lyra admired his quick thinking and problem-solving. Kira appreciated his resilience and calm under pressure, and even the quiet Huntress seemed intrigued by his adaptability and determination. Each acknowledgement reinforced the idea that humans, though often smaller and less physically imposing, could be respected for mind, heart, and ingenuity. By evening, they reached a high ridge overlooking the Huntresses' territory. The land below was vast, with rivers glistening in the fading sunlight, and forests stretching as far as the eye could see. The pack paused, taking in the view. Alex felt a thrill. This was more than survival now. This was adventure, exploration, and a chance to belong somewhere extraordinary. Lyra turned to him, her hand brushing lightly against his arm. "You have chosen to walk this path with us," she said softly. "Remember, your choices matter here just as your courage and your mind do. You are not alone anymore." Alex nodded, feeling the weight and joy of her words. He realized that being human in this world meant more than simply surviving. It meant proving oneself worthy through action, thought, and respect. Humans could not only endure, they could influence, lead, and inspire. As night fell, they set up a small camp on the ridge. Alex helped build a fire, watched the stars emerge in the dark sky, and listened to the gentle rustling of the forest below. The Huntresses settled around him, their trust in him clear. Lyra sat closest, and he felt a sense of warmth and connection he had never experienced in solitude. "I'm glad you stayed," Lyra whispered, her voice soft against the night sounds. "Not many humans would have faced the dangers with the mind you have. Most would have run. Most would have panicked. You did not." Alex smiled quietly. "I had good teachers," he replied, thinking of them. "And I am still learning." Lyra's eyes gleamed faintly in the firelight. "Then we will teach you. You will learn our ways, and perhaps we will learn from you as well. Together we will be stronger than any storm, any predator, any challenge. The fire crackled. As they sat in quiet companionship, a human and a pack of extraordinary huntresses sharing warmth, trust, and the beginning of a new journey, Alex realized that the storm that had brought them together was only the start. Life with these beings would be challenging, exciting, and full of lessons, and he was ready for all of it. In the days that followed, the human and the huntresses traveled together through forests, mountains, and rivers, facing small dangers and learning to move as a team. Alex's cleverness saved them from hidden pitfalls, while the huntress's strength protected him from the wild creatures of the land. Bonds deepened, mutual respect grew, and subtle friendships, perhaps more, began to take root. Lyra remained, close, often guiding Alex quietly, sharing knowledge and testing his cleverness in small ways. Alex in turn offered strategies and insight, showing that humans could contribute in ways beyond raw strength. Each day reaffirmed the truth. Humans were not weak, nor insignificant. They could survive, thrive, and even earn admiration from the strongest beings in the galaxy. As the first full week ended, Alex realized how much he had grown. He was no longer the solitary human he had been. He was part of a team, part of a society built on skill, trust, and loyalty. And most importantly, he had earned a place beside Lyra, who had claimed him not through dominance but through respect and recognition of his worth. The story closes with Alex standing at the edge of the forest, Lyra beside him, the rest of the huntresses in the distance watching and waiting. The stars above blinked like distant fires, and the planet stretched endlessly before them. Alex understood something deeply. Humans, when brave, clever, and willing to learn, could stand proud even in the midst of the fiercest warriors. He looked at Lyra, smiled, and whispered, "Let's see what comes next." Lyra nodded, her hand brushing lightly against his. "Together," she said. And with that, the human and the huntresses stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them, united in courage, respect, and the unspoken promise of a shared journey.